Hey everybody, this is Dr. Joe Borio with this week's Thot Flash. Thot Flash. I got some great stuff I want to talk to you about today. Hopefully get you excited, more excited about being a chiropractor. But first, we got some housekeeping. Number one, September 9th and 10th, we've got an event going on LaGuardia Airport. It's a Chiropassion Consulting, life-changing event, guys, and I don't say that lightly. Dr. Matt McCoy is going to be there. He is the editor of the Vertebral Subluxation Research. He is phenomenal. Best I've ever heard him speak was the last time he spoke at our event. I'm not trying to be biased. I mean that sincerely. The guy is a warrior for chiropractic, and he was great to spend time with, both off stage and on stage. It was great. So you're really missing out if you're not going to be there. Number two, I mentioned last week, for the first 15 people who make a reservation for this event, we're going to give you half price on reservation fee. I'm going to make sure you guys get front row attendance so you guys can sit right up in the front. So real exciting event, and certainly a great offer for those people that are maybe on the fence, wondering, geez, you know what, should I go, should I not go? It is going to be life-changing. Number two, or that would be number three, right? Cody Crack. I want to welcome him to Chiropassion Consulting. He was actually at an event not too long ago and decided to join us, and I talked to him a few times. We're real excited to have him and real proud to have him as well. So thank you, Dr. Cody, for trusting us. It's going to be an honor to be your coach and mentor in the years to come, and I'm excited about the great progress that we anticipate you're going to have with our program. That being said, what I thought I'd talk about today is a topic which I just find phenomenal, because I think the more I think about chiropractic and what it is we do and how awesome it is, and I have, some guys say, geez, the metaphysical aspect of it. I'm in the middle of Giant versus Pygmy, which is really our logo. If anyone's noticed, there's a world, the earth, if you will, and then there's a baby being held or supported, and that's where that came from. It was something that I put together a while back, but all right, so I wasn't as prepared today as I should have been. I've been reading this, and sometimes I forget. I get so excited about talking to you guys. Should have grabbed it, but there's a great article. It's in Dynamic Chiropractic, okay? And it was Christopher Kent. I love Christopher Kent. He's with CLA. If you guys are familiar with CLA, they do Substation, Chris Kent and Patchen Tempo. And I'll be speaking with CLA, and I think I'm speaking with Patchen Tempo in Connecticut coming up here in the next couple of weeks. But Chris Kent writes for Chiropractic Dynamic Chiropractic, I'm sorry, and I love to read him. He is one of the, I think, more insightful, if you will, from a scientific-minded approach on chiropractic. And what was really interesting, the guy's brilliant, just to say that, but what was really interesting is he talked about vitalism, chiropractic, and the neural hologram. And what they were basically talking about was Pribram is a Nobel Prize laureate, and he was talking about the neurobiologic hologram. And what they meant in describing it was that if you deal with a traditional image and you look at information, let's look at that information on a page, okay? If I cut the page in half, okay, what happens is I lose half of the information if I grab one sheet of paper, right? So this half has this information and this half has that information. That's essentially what happens. But in a hologram, all the parts have all the information. So if I cut a hologram in half physically, and we're talking like three-dimensional here, space and time, you got to kind of think a little differently, if you will. But if I take an apple, for example, and I cut an apple in half, the same information, intelligence, if I can use that, right, is on one side of the apple as was on the other. So in a sense, I didn't lose any information. And what they're talking about is brain activity, neural activity. The brain is thought to be a neural hologram. It's really more of a happening of the information. And the argument on that would be, and again, I'm deriving this from this article and what I know, the argument then is, if that's true, if the nervous system is a neural hologram, how come, and all the information is throughout the whole nervous system, right? So it's not necessarily all housed life source, life force, and brain, but it's through the whole system. Why? Well, you're limited by the mechanical aspects or hardware for the neural hologram to express itself. So Broca's or Wernicke's areas, if you will, for speech, you need to, it's housed in certain areas of the brain, or the neural hardware, if you will. So those areas, if you will, have the mechanical hardware to formulate and then create speech, right? To think about speech and then do the mechanics to formulate speech. But the information in order to do that is throughout the whole system. It's a happening. Why is that interesting, if you think about it, was that we want to talk about the mental impulse. D.D. Palmer in the early 1900s, that's what he talked about. What is the mental impulse? So if you read this, and again, I'm paraphrasing somewhat from this article, but according to Stevenson, now Stevenson wrote the first textbook. Bob Sinnott came up with it, or basically reconditioned it again, if I can use that terminology. But the original textbook by Stevenson, one of the Green Books, according to Stevenson, we might conceive of this mental impulse as being composed of a certain kind of physical energy in proper proportions, which will balance other such forces in the tissue cell, such as electricity, valency, magnetism, cohesion, etc. Perhaps some of these energies are not known to us in physics. What right, and I love this, what right have we to assume that we have found them all? See, that's one of the biggest challenges, I think, with our entire profession, in that our level of certainty or confidence is that we live in this world where the arrogance is out there, with the idea that the medics or scientists have somehow discovered everything there is to know and discover. And as a result, some of the things that we can't necessarily put our finger on, and we delve into the realm of that with chiropractic, sometimes we start to question the validity of what it is we do, and that's certainly been a challenge for chiropractic over the last century. The reality is this: the further science goes, the more valid scientifically chiropractic becomes. But chiropractic is really essentially a philosophy. It's based on those 33 principles, starting from that deductive and then inductive reasoning, right? I mean, you're basically starting with a premise based upon observation and thinking, right? Inductive and deductive reasoning. That there has to be intelligence, because when I look at something, the fabric of everything that exists has information, has intelligence within it. There's a design to it. There's an intention, an objective to it. And knowing that, we then come to the idea that, where does life come from? And if, based on this, then this is what life is, and animals and matter and energy and information. This is how this has to work. And, we're not trying to necessarily describe how it all came to be, but we're standing back as observers to say, look, this is what it is. And then as participants, we're part of it, and part of that system, which means we have to follow those laws and rules. And then as chiropractors, I think it's so vitally important that we look at all that and humbly accept the idea that there's a power greater than ourselves that exists, an intent and intention and intelligence that's been there eternally. And that, I love to listen to, old Reggie stuff where, he steps back and says, how do you know how much vitamin C somebody has, in an RDA? How do you know exactly what a liver cell has? If everyone's biology and physiology, if you will, is unique to them. There's a similarity, but unique to each individual. As a chiropractor, it's difficult. We want to get into that realm of helping people, and then we tend to define our ability to help them by results. Hey, you got better? Well, how chiropractic works, it's great. You didn't get better? Well, you know what a lot of chiropractors do is step back, oh boy, you didn't get better, so I feel lousy about myself, I'm not doing a good enough job, or I need to do other things to treat them to make them better. So then everything we do becomes chiropractic. Nutrition becomes chiropractic, and high volt, low volt, physical therapy, and all those things then become chiropractic. The problem is your intention is wrong there. Your intention is to make sure the mental impulse right? That energy, if you will, that something that then is a result of the biochemical electrical activity of the brain, creates a mental impulse, a signal that goes down the system and comes back up. It's constantly firing back and forth. Your job is to make sure it gets there. That's your job. Bottom line, end of story, that's what you're supposed to be doing. What the body does with that improved mental impulse, that improved intelligence, that improved knowledge, that wisdom that now can illuminate the body, that's up to the body to handle. Now, I know sometimes some docs are affected by that. They don't like the way I speak about that, but I'm telling you, that is chiropractic in its inception. That's what it should be today. That's what it should be today. Our job is to make sure the body works better from a mental impulse aspect. That's my job. That's certainly my essential existence as a chiropractor. You know, the other things, as important as they may be in the body functioning well, and again, I'm not negating them, it's not what chiropractic is. What defines us, what BJ fought desperately and really died for, was the distinction and definition of our terminology, our vocabulary, subluxation, adjustment, the intention, the objective of what it is we did and do. And they didn't fully understand it, though they understood it from a metaphysical standpoint 100 years ago. You know, if you read the James study and you start to read Science Academy and American Science, and you start to read these other journals on neurophysiology and so forth, you start to see that, you know, they're starting to identify the existence and recognize the existence of something. If you start to read physicists talking about matter and energy and breaking it down into protons and neutrons and smashing these things apart, we realize that, look at this stuff is nothing but energy. We're energy beings. That's what we are. That's what we've always been. And that the intention of the observer of the experiment changes the result of the experiment. That's why you got to be clean up in the head when you're putting your hands on somebody to adjust them. You got to get into a ritual to clear your mind, to make sure that you're in the right place, frame of reference. If you really are somebody that's still hung up on results, boy, I'll tell you, the clearer you are here, you're really going to create some happenings in the body when you start to adjust it, because your energy or your intelligence affects those people that you work with. I know sometimes that's a little deep for some guys and ladies out there, but that is what we do. That is what chiropractic is. The biggest challenge we have is fear. I think a lot of chiropractors embrace much of what I say, but they're afraid. And what's sad is, what you don't realize is, listen, they're not coming to a chiropractor. Even though they think, hey, you're going to crack their back and it's going to feel better, they're still not coming to you for the same that they would get allopathically. They're coming to you because they want something different. Even if it is that crack, if it's that crack that's the something different, your job is to say, look, give me a little latitude here. When I crack you, that crack is called an adjustment. And that adjustment does so much more than just a fun sound to hear and get rid of the back pain. It does so much more. It's an indication that your body can talk and communicate and express life and messages and signals, that it can express the mental impulse. The mental impulse. Hopefully I'm resonating with a lot of people. Don't forget, September 9th and 10th, New York City, Dr. Matt McCoy. It's going to be great. I'm excited about being there. We're going to rock. Have a phenomenal week serving those. May urinate always flow from above down. It's been Dr. Joe Borio. Enjoy the week, guys.
His friend gave me the best advice. He said each day's a